Tchoukball on Fire, episode 13. Thank you for joining us to our bi-weekly episode. Okay, Tchoukball Nation, I'm simply glad to introduce my guest today, Shari Frank, Master of Education, Physical Education and Specialist Education of the University of Hawaii and George Mason University. She has over 20 years of experience teaching health and physical education at all levels of public school and 5 years at the college level. In 2003, Shari became involved with Tchoukball and participated in the International Tchoukball Festival held in Silver Spring, Maryland. She has presented at several major PE and health conferences in Florida, New York, North Carolina, Maryland, Utah, and West Virginia. I have been given to Tchoukball Nation a little overview, Shari, but take a minute to tell us about yourself. We want to know you, and then tell us how you discovered Tchoukball.
Well, first of all, hello. My name is Shari Frank, as Pierre mentioned, and I currently live in Hazel Township in Pennsylvania, which is the northeast section of Pennsylvania. And currently I am working at the University of Bloomsburg of Pennsylvania. There, my primary teaching responsibilities are health, physical education, fitness, exercise, and I also currently teach a class on how to teach children in elementary school physical education. How I became involved with Tchoukball was when I was teaching in Northern Virginia, right outside of the Washington, D.C. Our school district holds yearly in-services, and during those in-services, we as teachers have an opportunity to go to different sessions and learn about different games, activities, fitness ideas, technology. And I attended a session called Tchoukball, and during that session is when I became familiar with the game.
Perfect. What was the appeal of Tchoukball?
First of all, anytime you're with a bunch of teachers, especially physical education teachers, you know we're going to get out and we love to play and move. And so when I was watching the game, it was amazing how quickly we were able to get involved in a game. So the appeal of it, first of all, it was unique. It was something different, something I'd never seen before. It was a team sport, so it did still have competition and scoring. One of the things we promote in our school district is international games, so I was excited about learning something from a different country. When I got out and played, I noticed it was very easy to play, especially with people you don't know. A lot of times when you get involved in a sport, you need a sport skills set of techniques and strategies, and if you don't know the other players, it's not easy to get involved immediately. And with this game, I found that true, that we could get together and start playing quite quickly. It felt friendly and fair. The set of skills was fairly easy and mostly involved catching and throwing. And so that was the appeal of the sport to me.
Excellent. Tell us about your motivations to introduce it to your students. You were teaching at the middle school level at the time, right?
At the time, I was at middle school level, so I had 7th and 8th graders. And my experience, what motivated me to teach the game was it was inclusive of different skill levels, and it was a team sport that could be played with both boys and girls, because in middle school level our classes are co-ed, and at the time I was also teaching students with disabilities, and I wanted some activities where I could include those students that had either a mental or physical disability. So I was motivated to bring a game to my students where I felt that boys and girls could play at the same time. Frequently we do have students do co-ed games, but they're usually dominated either by an athletic student or by physical boys. So I thought, oh, look at this. This is a nice co-ed game. Students didn't have to worry about physical aggression or contact from their opponent. And I also really was motivated to do it because I found it cooperative and in nature. A lot of team sports are such that one player can dominate the game. He or she can hold on to the ball, move the ball up and down the field, and do it a lot by him or herself. And in this game, it truly, you have to use your teammates, and one player could not dominate. And that was what really motivated me to use this game.
Thank you. So, what has been the biggest challenge you have been facing while introducing the game to your students or peers?
Um, so many team sports involve um, guarding an opponent, intercepting passes, and a lot of the focus of those type of games have to do with marking the opponent. So the biggest mindset is to change that traditional sports mindset by going and saying the focus is not on your opponent in terms of their physical opponent, or the focus is not on trying to intercept the pass. So that has been the hardest mindset, is to get students out of that familiarity, that natural response to want to intercept or guard an individual. So that's been the biggest challenge.
Okay, I can see that. Tell us about your work with Tchoukball and what have been the great achievements you obtained.
Well, my work with Tchoukball has started with teaching it to middle school students. And the middle school, again, I worked at was 7th and 8th grade. And there has been times where I was a substitute teacher in different states. And what I would do was I would go up to the teachers and say, hey, I'm a physical education teacher and I have this sport. And so as a substitute teacher, I would bring the game along with me. And if the teachers would let me, I would teach it to high school students. Then I moved up to a high school and I taught it to my high school students as well as my middle school students. Um, I've introduced it to my coworkers and other teachers. I've had a chance to teach it to college students. I've been able to introduce it at state and national conferences. Um, Several times I conducted an in-service workshop for a school district. And so I was practicing PE teachers the game. And in terms of that, what's been a great achievement is just talking to teachers who play it. At these conferences and conventions that I go to, frequently people come by and talk to me, and there are as many people that are interested in the game as people who have started playing it and love it. So one of the neatest achievements is just sharing and talking to teachers who are playing it, and they love it, and they love it with their students as well. And then we start brainstorming ways to teach the game to their students, or they'll come by and they just want to talk about the game or activities they can do with it. So that's been a fabulous achievement in terms of work with Tchoukball.
Excellent. Sherry, now we reach my favorite part of this interview, and I will ask you a series of questions, and you get back to us with your answer. Are you ready?
Yes.
According to you, what is the biggest challenge for the diffusion of Tchoukball in the US?
Um, Tchoukball, because it is so unfamiliar, and a lot of times teachers and students don't come through their educational careers knowing the game, and it's something very unfamiliar. And that makes it a huge challenge, because if they haven't seen it in 12 years, people tend to be less likely to try something new. Um, some other of the challenges is the space it requires and the number of players that can play at once. It kind of goes with basketball and some other sports, which is the space that's required and the number of players. It's not the most um, efficient use of space with the number of players. That's not the case outside, but inside it's a little bit difficult to get as many students as possible involved because of the nature of the game in the space. So that's a challenge. And the cost of the equipment could be a little bit of difficulty for school districts that have to make choices in their budget. So the cost could be a little bit of a difficult area.
Okay. What has been your best experience in Tchoukball?
Um, from a teacher perspective, the best experience ever is seeing students that are typically uninvolved or students that are not athletic finally get excited about a game. I do many activities every year. Um, I try to take dance and gymnastics and tumbling and other non-traditional games, but to see students involved in a team sport actually participating, moving, and enjoying competition. That has been one of the greatest pleasures that I have had involved with Tchoukball.
Okay, thank you. What would be the advice you would be giving to someone who wants to promote the game in a community?
My advice would be first is to go to some facility where students or children or adults play, like some type of athletic gym, here in the United States, a YMCA or something, and find a small group of people that you can talk into playing the game and have them actually play the game. So go somewhere, like I said, where people are already playing. Show them the game, get them involved in the game, have them play, and then once they, because it's so easy to get hooked into it, and once you actually get them out playing and they enjoy it, have them help you spread the word, have them bring in other people to play, and have sessions, open gym sessions where they bring their friends along to play. You can maybe even do it at schools. And when people are more familiar with it and they've played it, it would be easier then to do some type of little open gym night at a school or recreational facility if you already have players playing and are familiar with it and they bring a friend along. So that would be my best suggestion in terms of trying to spread the game.
Okay, thank you for this advice. Where do you see Tchoukball in 5 years from now in your country and around the world?
First of all, I think it would be a little bit hard for me to speak around the world. I'm just, unfortunately, just not that familiar with it. But within the United States, within 5 years, I've been involved with it for 10 years, and I've definitely seen some growth. I think it's still going to continue growing slowly, but it's kind of like from the previous question, which is you start getting a few people playing it, and then it spreads. So in 5 years, I see that still more and more schools will be playing it. The states that are already involved, every time I go to a conference or convention where it's being played in that state, I notice that even more and more parts of the state are playing it. So in 5 years, I see the states that have already adopted it seeing it in more and more of the schools.
Excellent. I hope you will be right. Shari, you have been giving us some great advice and information, and we thank you for that. Please give to Tchoukball Nation a piece of guidance, share how we can find you, and we will say goodbye.
All right. First, you may find me at sfrank@bloomu.edu. That's SFRANK at BLOOMU.edu. And that's where you can contact me, and please feel free to contact me at that location. I would love to share any insight, any information about the game, because it's definitely one of the funner, more active games that I've had a chance to be involved with in my 20-year career. My advice would be just do it. Try to find some people somewhere playing the game. Like, you just find it in the most unusual, unique places. Like, for instance, when I'm walking down the halls of the school, I go up to the coaches and say, "Hey, do you want something fun to do and different with your athletic team?" And I've gotten some of the athletic teams to start doing that at the game with their respective sports. And so I just say, find somebody playing, find some gym where there's a group of people, take the equipment with you, and just say, "Hey, come try this game." So that would be my advice.
Thank you, Shari. All the listeners could find all the links and resources you mentioned today on tchoukballandfire.com/ShariFrank/. Thank you for being so generous with your time, Shari, and sharing your experience and advices. Tchoukball Nation salutes you, and we will catch you along the road.
Thank you very much. Have a great one.